All of that is what it takes when you're seeking to come from a place of excellence. What are you feeding yourself? Are you feeding yourself a lifestyle that's full of habits that are built around mediocrity? Or are you bringing excellence to your life? What kind of lifestyle do you want to have? Hi, my name is Sheila. Welcome to the video. In this video, we're going to be talking about feeding yourself excellence. As you saw in the beginning of this video, I was working to try to get my phone set up. I've got a whole little setup going on behind the scenes. I was working to try to get that setup better. I did not have it where I needed it to be, and so I was working with it, maneuvering it, getting it set up so that it could capture the picture in the way that I wanted it captured. If you've followed me for a while, then you know I predominantly talk about health and fitness, being productive, finding a way to live your best life. As you see here in my office, just like you've probably found a way to sort of frame your environment in a way that works for you. When I'm talking about excellence, we're talking about your definition of excellence for you, not my definition of excellence for you. I want to say that off the get-go. Now let's jump into things and talk about what you're feeding yourself when it comes to trying to figure out what's best for your mind, body, and soul. When I'm looking at my environment, even something as simple as trying to put together a video, I do have certain standards for myself, certain expectations, a certain level of excellence that I'm looking for. Now, I'm not shooting for perfection because perfection doesn't really exist. What I'm shooting for is to make things better and get as close to possible as I can, as close as possible as I can to the goals and standards that I have for myself. One of the things that I've noticed, and if you look at studies, you will see the same thing. And even if you look at influencers, scientific research, you'll find that you really are a product of what you surround yourself with and the expectations that you set for yourself. You will work as hard as you need to work to accomplish the goals that you set for yourself. Once you reach those goals, you're sort of like, oh, okay, I'm done. Did that, that's great. There's no incentive or motivation to ever move beyond that. So think about that for a second. If you set your goals really low, then what are you going to achieve? Low goals. If you set your goals much higher in terms of what you want for yourself, after you've taken a sort of inventory of what your life could be like, once you set high expectations for yourself, a level of excellence for yourself, and you start to value yourself, you will see outcomes that are closer to that and a little bit further away from standards that look like mediocrity. But here's the key, and I hinted at this just a minute ago. It's not just the things that you're doing. It's also who you are doing them with. You know how they say birds of a feather flock together? It's that kind of thing. If you surround yourself with mediocre people and people who don't have any goals for themselves, people who don't see themselves as wanting to achieve or live a life of excellence and productivity and value in the way that, we individually define it, then what's going to become your standard in terms of what excellence looks like to you? If you surround yourself with people who are a little bit further along than you, then you can start to move closer to that position. It's sort of like when I show up and work out with somebody, I don't want to work out with somebody who's not going to help me up my game. I want to up my game. I don't want my game to falter. I don't necessarily want to take 2 steps back. I want to find a way to progress. You're not going to do that if the person that you bring to the game is the person who is at a beginner stage. Now, if you're looking to mentor someone or help someone along, that's entirely different. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if you want to reach those higher goals and standards for yourself, you've got to start feeding yourself excellence. You've got to start holding yourself accountable to a higher set of goals and standards and expectations that you have for yourself. And not just sort of living a life of mediocrity and thinking that you're going to get excellent results with what you're trying to do. There was a period of time when I was not necessarily, let me rephrase that. There was a period of time I was working for an entity. And one of the ways that you were reviewed in terms of your annual review for performance, they would determine whether or not you meet, exceeded, or didn't meet your performance expectations. So if you got a does not meet, oh, okay, that's really bad, because that indicates that there is a significant level of improvement that needs to go on. Something is not clicking there. Most of the time you get meets, you're hitting your targets, you're doing the things that they expect you to do, you show up, you get the job done. And then there is exceeds, like you're exceeding the performance that we expected from you. You're going above and beyond what we need you to do. You're showing initiative, creativity. You're building teams and coalitions even more than they ever thought was possible. You're definitely at a level where you're exceeding and you're excelling. But for most of us, if we think back to the jobs that we've had, most of the time we probably got meets, right? We probably got meets. They were paying us to do a job, we did a job, and so we got the check. But now, if you're trying to do more for yourself, meets is probably not good enough. So if you're gonna feed yourself a diet, of meets, then what is that going to get you? It's going to get you that same sort of outcome that you had at that job. It was just enough to get by. If you want to excel, then you have to do more. You can't show up just like everybody else is showing up. You got to show up even when they aren't showing up. When they're in the bed, that's when you need to be up. When they decide that they're staying in, that's when you need to be out. When they give up on reading more, investing in personal development and learning more, that's when you say, I'm going to double down on my self-improvement so that I can reach my goals. Otherwise, you're just meeting, and you're never going to get to the point where you're going to excel. There are times though, when we will feel like we don't have it in us to push any harder. We may have a lot going on in our lives. We may just be facing difficulties that we never imagined. So you're probably saying, Sheila, how do I excel when it's hard for me to even get to the meet stage? I'm down here at the does not meet. That's what I'm feeding myself. That's what's showing up when I do my self-evaluation. I don't even meet the things that I say that I'm going to do. We all have like ups and downs, mountains and valleys. The key is recognizing that that's just a valley. That's just one point in time. And you can always get back up and try again. You can always get back up the next day and say, okay, new day. What am I going to do now? What are my goals? What am I going to achieve? When am I going to achieve them? What does it take to get it done? Recognizing that and not beating ourselves up will help us keep going, because I've been there. There are times when I've just felt like there's too much. I can't get it all done. I can't keep up, and I'm not getting to the meets. I don't even feel like I feel like I'm below the does not meet. I'm down here on the ground somewhere trying to pull all of the pieces together just so I can get back to the point where I'm okay, above water, I can breathe, and maybe I'm starting to meet some of the things that I want to meet. There are times when I've had to regroup and say, okay, this week was shot. I didn't get done a whole bunch of stuff. This weekend though, I'm gonna start to pull pieces back together because things are like 2 weeks behind, but I'm gonna pull it back together and I'm gonna start over. I'm gonna start fresh. We're gonna give this a new shot. That's coming out of that valley. That's learning how to pick up the pieces and continue to go forward, even when you don't know how long it's going to take you to get to where you want to go. That's the difference between people who excel and people who continue to just meet and not exceed what it is they're trying to do. So you need to decide what kind of life, what kind of lifestyle you want to have for yourself. If you just want to live a life of mediocrity, if you just want to like never really experience anything or have great friends and great relationships, if you just want to have a life that's full of mediocrity, everything is just good enough and nothing better than that, well, that's great if that's what you want to have. But if you say that you want more, if you say that you really want to excel, start to examine what it is you're doing, what it is you're feeding yourself, who you're around, who's in your ear, and what you're doing with them in order to sort of move things to that higher level. Stop playing around in the mud and getting dirty and things that, you know, you then got to go clean off because it wasn't really where you wanted to be. Start picking yourself up, holding yourself to a higher standard. Clean up your surroundings, clean up your friendships, clean up your experiences and your relationships. Clean up your life so that you can start excelling and reaching those goals that you're trying to reach. That's it. Think about what you're feeding yourself. Bringing in excellence, or are you bringing in something else? Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and peace.